Yes, people, we are back. Season 3, episode 3. I'm T, your host for today's topic, relationships. If you know me, if you've been listening from season 1, season 2, you know exactly how I feel about this topic. But anyway, let me contain my excitement and do a bit of housekeeping. The song you just heard just now in the background by our very own Jay on the album Life is UKG. And also remember to like, share, subscribe, and interact with us on all major platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast, Facebook, even our brand new website at www.onesaf.co.uk. So, boys, how's everyone feeling, man? What we saying?
I'm feeling more than good, man. Boy, the fact we can even say we're here, season 3, episode 3, and the relationship one, yeah, everyone knows T is the one that comes through on that one mostly. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we all have our own bag, don't we? We all have our own bag.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, man's excited.
Yeah, man, 100%, 100%. It's moving quickly, man. The episodes are moving quickly, boy. So, yeah, we've got to get it in. We've got to get it in.
For sure. Excited. Let's go. What you got for us, T? I'm scared.
I know.
No, don't be scared, boys. So, yeah, do you know what I mean? You know, we always keep it real here. But anyway, as previously mentioned, today's topic is relationships. And we've touched on this topic before in season 1, episode 2. We talked about role models, boys, if you remember. And we also touched on it again in season 2, episode 5, part 1 and part 2. But today we're going to hone in a little bit more on a specific type of relationship. Boys, we're talking about friendships.
Okay. Level.
That's the topic on the table today. Yeah, friendships, platonic friendships. That's what we're talking about. So, question to you boys, and also for the listeners: would you class this type of relationship as important?
Most definitely.
100%.
Yeah, it's part of developing a character. Your character, you know, helps you to develop socially. So yeah, friends definitely.
Can I just before we jump into it fully, can I just ask, like, platonic? How would, like, there's obviously a straight up definition of platonic, but how would we define that amongst ourselves? Like, what do we see as platonic?
Maybe non-romantic.
Seeing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see.
That's where I was coming from with it as well.
I think for me, what platonic means is it means tested, man. Like someone who's been tested, and that I know that they are like my friends. I don't even like using the term friends, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, I just think someone who's been tested, like someone who's platonic for me, it's a mutual thing. There's mutual benefits going back and forth.
100%. I think straight up and down is we wouldn't be here if it wasn't important. That's all I can say to that. You know what I mean? I'm sure we'll unpick it a little bit more, but yeah, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be me if friendships didn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Hold your horses. You're already digging out what I'm planning
you
on talking
you
about.
asked a question. I'm answering your question.
No, but for the viewers as well, though, because I
Yeah,
tell
man,
you what,
I hear it.
I tell you what,
Mhm.
that word sometimes isn't too familiar with people. You know what I mean? So I just thought, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
No,
sorry,
levels,
team.
man.
Sorry, team.
No,
Sorry.
levels. It's that's why we're here, boys. Yeah, that's why there's a table, and on this table we come from it from different angles. So jump in, add whatever, subtract whatever. Yeah, but remember, I'm controlling it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Jeez.
I know what type of relationship you want. Yeah.
Right, boys. So obviously we've established that it is an important relationship, right? But what does it actually look like as if it's a good relationship? what does it look like?
Well, to jump in, it's quite interesting actually because we had a conversation quite recently with another organization, and there was a mention around similarities or being of similar mindset, and there was a pushback because the pushback was we don't want people of similar mindsets because if everyone's similar mindset, there's no change, there's no growth, and there was a disparity in the meaning of what we meant by that. We all are sitting here now having similar mindsets, and friendship to me, we have to be similar, not exact, not the same. And we have a friendship which has grown so much so that we have very astute differences, and it doesn't impact how we treat and see each other. In fact, the difference in view is valued to the point we say, okay, let me hear your point. Even though I believe I'm right, let me hear your point though. And then you get to a point where there's a new level of understanding or learning. We don't have to agree afterwards still, but the value in what we have is that we are able to have differences and still stick together as a unit. That's important because there are many, I guess, I don't want to say the word weaker because that's a very simplistic word, but there are many non-platonic or non-genuine relationships that break down as soon as you have a difference with that person. And that's when you know, when I come back to the testing part, all my people, all my boys, all my friends have been tested. And I don't even like using that term friend because it seems it's not enough quality to explain to me, to the listeners, to me, to you lot, what you lot really mean to me. And not just you lot, I've got people outside this circle, outside this podcast as well that I would put in that. But friendship, this doesn't seem like enough, man. But we'll dig into it later. But yeah, that's kind of the value and that's kind of the mindset that I have when it comes down to what friendship means to me, man.
Levels, man. Levels.
Yeah.
Um,
What does it look like? For me, just using my own personal experiences, for me, it looks like being in a room and being able to have a conversation with these people without even having to use words. That's what it looks like to me. Like having that understanding. I go by or understanding someone's core. And what I mean by that, that's an acronym, by the way. So core is kind of understanding the character, the person's origins, the person's relations, i.e., who they're connected to, who they're related to, etc., and their energy. I have to understand what their core is. I'll go into that a bit more later, but all those things are important to know and understand what my friendships look like. But I always look at the core, and they have to tick certain boxes. I know it sounds kind of bad, but you've got to tick certain boxes in that core to have a sustainable friendship. So sitting in a room, being able to converse and have an understanding where words don't even need to necessarily be exchanged. And there's so many examples of it, even amongst ourselves, and obviously there's external people anyway. But even sometimes when we have like meetings and we might be on camera or something like that, and
It could just be
like
a look, innit? You just
yeah,
like a glance and tells
and
a
for
million.
example, yeah. But for example, like T's he's probably the prime person to do this. About we'll have a meeting, and he'll be like, you good?" And I'll be like, yeah. And then he'll go, "Nah, you good?" Because he likes to observe and see. Like, so without me saying anything, he might know that okay, something's not completely 100 today. And that's because of that friend. That's because of that bond understanding. Like, okay, I'll take your first answer, but I know there's something behind that. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Just kind of knowing when to pick up your people, knowing when to jump in, knowing when to sit back and not even say anything. All of that is what it looks like, a relationship and friendship.
Yeah, for real. when I think about like friendship and the meaning of it, I always go back to what my mom used to say to me, and is choose your friends wisely. Like, and I'm sure other people's parents have said that to them. Choose your friends wisely. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's always stuck with me. A friend, or someone who says they're a friend, they might take you somewhere, but they might not be with you on the way back. And a true friend will always come back with you. Do you know what I'm saying? For me, it's people I want to have on my team, people that I trust, people I can share goals with. And kind of like what Kay said, friendship is it's not enough. It's not enough of a word to describe the meaning, but for the generalization of what society calls friendship, yeah, it's just that bond, that connection, that trust. For me, it's like the trust. Like, I can trust in you to have my back. You can trust in me. I can trust in your responses. I can trust in your advice. I know that you're not going to tell me something because you just want to see me fall. If you're telling me something, it's because you want to see me rise to the top. And that's what really, to me, true friendship is, and what it means.
That's level what you say there. Can I just add on to what you and Jay
Yeah,
said
man.
as
Yeah,
well,
man. Go on.
And then it'd be good to hear what you think as well, T. But we say like friendship is not enough of a word, and I just want to just give a little bit more on that, and just see if the listeners can resonate with this too. In the UK, etc. Like, what do we like? What's all the type of relationship that we have, boys? We got friendships. Else do we say? Say family,
Acquaintances.
acquaintances, and that's kind of like the three main ones, right? Cool, that's three. In the Greek, there's 7 different types of relationship that they have, and the one we're kind of speaking on is philia or philia, however you want to pronounce that. And that's I don't know what number it comes in within the 7, but that's the type of friendship that we're talking about here. And I just wanted to pull out a particular phrase that it said, and I think that will speak to what M said about just being able to be in the room and kind of like we kind of read off each other, looking at our core. He used the word core. Well, here's what the Greek definition of philia or philia means. I'm going to pull out one part just to speak to what M said. Soul to soul bonds. Yeah. So this is not about the intimacy that you would have with a partner, a intimate partner, not erotic by any means, but a intimacy where you're so close to that person that it can almost be like a soul to soul bond. That authenticity. And I think that might speak to what M's talking about. I've got to know that person's core. I've got to know that person's soul.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. I thought I'd share that, man.
Yeah, man. Levels on that. Yeah, you wanted to hear my thoughts on that. For me, I echo what everyone else said. Like you guys, you always know, like I've always been fascinated by relationships, not just like Kay said, erotic, but platonic, all types of relationship, family. I've always been fascinated by it because it's so interesting when you sit back and just watch people move and interact with each other. And then you watch people pretend to be friends. And then something happens, and then you realize they're not your friends.
Yep.
Right? And I've always been one watching that closely, and I've been stung a few times by it because it's trial and error. But you get to a certain stage when you meet someone for 5 minutes and you're like, me and you are going to get on. Or you meet someone 5 minutes, you're like, nope, definitely not. Right? But which leads me perfectly into my next question because Jay touched on it as well. Do you think family have an influence on your judgment in picking friends?
1,000,000%, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 million, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%.
You
Like
understand?
there's no two ways about it. From my experiences, anyway. I think looking back at it, not just my parents, but looking back at it, I think especially parents, they do a core check as well. They from early, from the moment you start interacting with other children, from the time you kind of get into like preschool and nursery and that, And I'm gonna probably say like maybe it's even more prominent with 1SAF DNA parents. But
100%, blood. Yeah, listen.
but
You need to get that look, fam. You need to
but
get that look. Like
I
as soon as
think
you walk into their house, they give you that look.
it starts from early. I
Mm.
think as a parent myself, like you start doing that check. You start seeing kind of okay, what's these children? What are my children's friends' character like? Where are their origins? Who are they related to? What's their energy like coming into the home? Are they kind of are they showing certain things? Where it's like I don't know. So it's massive. I can just my mum, she'd know. She'd know if someone's good, bad. And obviously I've got older siblings, so I've seen kind of who she's kind of ticked off as a positive and maybe as a negative. But even closer to home, just a real life example, even even using Kay, just the first time going around Kay's house, like many years ago, maybe at age of 13, his mum done a check on me, straight up and down. His mum done a core check on me, what my character was like, what my origins were. She knew some of my origins because obviously we're kind of connected like that. Our families are connected. She knew who I was related to, and
Bloodline.
if I can kind of quote her, she said to me before kind of we even really got active in terms of what we were going around for. She was like, I know your family, so I know you're not going to be rude. Left, right, and center.
Wow, man,
That's
call
a,
up Mumsy.
no, but she's on that check. She knew the core of me anyway before I even knew her, and she was like, so she kind of set the standard just by saying things like that, and I was like, and I don't think that's done enough anymore, if I was being honest. But those little
Definitely.
things, those little kind of conversations, those little kind of remarks, like that's what carries generations through time. You know what I mean? And just those little links, and then it puts you on kind of on guard. It's like, okay, well now I can't, even if I thought about it, I can't, because now she knows my relations, she knows my energy, she knows my origins. So anything I do bad is going to go back. So I think it's a massive, parents and play a massive part in terms of who we interact with, good and bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Kay's mumsy.
That's quite funny you say that.
Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Mumsy. That is quite funny you say that because I remember moving to the town. Obviously, I had no family connections in the town, but going around K's, M's, other people's from 1SAF DNA, the question that I always got on the first meeting is who your mother, who your father, who your nana. Like without a shadow of a doubt, on the first meeting,
Before they even ask your name.
before they even ask your name, who your mother, who your father. So yeah, that just speaks to the intuition that they had, and you know that check they wanted to be as secure as they can be in their children's friendships. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think family does play a massive role in who you as a young person choose as your friends. And we've all had it. You brought someone around and your mom say to you or your dad say to you, I don't like them, don't bring them back in my house. If you don't bring them back in my house. And that's the energy. Don't bring them back in my house. And they necessarily don't have to do nothing bad. They could have put on the best act. And I guarantee you now, 10 times out of 10, the person who they said, don't bring them back in my house, further down the line at some point, show their true colors. So, yeah, can't deny it.
100,
Yeah,
man.
levels, man. Levels, man. Because that's one thing I wanted to touch on was, should they have a say in what type of friends? Because if I have to share my own experience, was I had to learn the hard way. Like Jay, you just said there, when your parents are saying, this person here, don't want them in my house, shouldn't be hanging around them. And then you do. But because you think you know it all. Viewers and listeners, have you been told that by your parents? Have you told your kids that? And if you waited on the side and found out what happened after, nine times out of 10, I would like to think.
There's no one more smug than a mom when you come and tell her something that's happened, and she goes, "Yep, I told you, I told you."
Yep, yep. Head that. So, should us as parents, myself, we're now parents, and now we're behaving like our parents were. So when my little one is out there playing with other kids, maybe at school, I'm watching their parents, how they're moving, right? Because I know the next thing that's going to come is, oh, can I go for a sleepover? Can I go and do this with that person? And I'm thinking, no, 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 no. I've already seen how those parents are moving. I don't want you nowhere near it. So should we be getting involved in actually dictating who our kids should associate with?
Yeah, it's a valid point that you have there, T, as well. Around parents. I don't think the word dictate, I would say advise or guide. And the reason why I say that, and just to answer the question as well, yes, I do think parents have and should have an influence on their children's associations, period. And there's examples that actually, in fact, let's give some. Like, I believe the conversations that I've had with my boys' parents, and even at your wedding, T, I made sure that I introduced myself to your mum and dad, because that's literally the biological combination of who you are. You're literally half and half of them two people. And there's no way I can go to your wedding and give you a blessing to, you know what I mean, marry to your wife, and I haven't spoke to your parents. So I made sure that I spoke to your parents, and it just was so, it all started to make sense, the connections. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I have to have a relationship, whether it's smaller or larger, with my friends' parents, because how do I really know who you are if I don't know where you come from? You understand what I'm saying? And it's like with Jay, for example, there was an incident when I had to betray him. I had to betray him because I could not lie to his mom, because she questioned me and looked me dead in my face, and I had so much respect for Jay and his mom that even though I knew what I would say next, he wouldn't find favor with me. But in the end, he's got that much respect for my mom that he wouldn't even lie to her, even though if it puts me in some sort of trouble, I can't lie.
I got beats because of that.
Wow.
Instantly.
But look at the relationship that I have with Jay's mom. Jay, you can attest to that.
Yeah, 100%.
We go back and forth and we talk like anything and blah blah, and we learn because her recollection. And I hope you don't mind if I bring this up, Jay, but when I went to see you last year, your mum thought that because of our cultural background, how we were brought up in England, that we were rude because we used the first name.
Yeah.
Rather than the last name.
Yeah.
And it was only through conversating with her, it kind of made her realize that wasn't a rudeness thing. It was simply because we're born and grown in England, we picked up traits that weren't familiar with back home. Yeah, I mean, and it kind of like it helps to write things. And same with M's mum. The amount of conversation I had with M's mum. And again, when you speak to that energy, man, each parent has a different energy. And you don't talk to one parent, you talk to another parent. But guess what? That's their base. That's Jay's base. That's M's base. And when it comes down to my parents, they were my base. And the reason why I said about T around advice and guidance is because not once, even though I know my parents were worried about me when I used to hit street and blah, not hit street in that way, not in the criminal sense, but when I used to hit street, they were worried about me. I know they were. They can't lie. You know what I mean? But it was never, you're not going out. You're not going to hang out with these people or go here or go there. It was, just be careful. Just be mindful. Don't get a taxi home. And one piece of advice that, for example, that my dad would give me was, I can't tell you what to do, but, and then he'll put in his guidance. Because it's about letting that leash go and letting your child has to go out there and learn at some point, and you're not going to be there. You're not going to be there. And you have to, as a parent, be able to trust that upbringing that you've instilled in that child at some point. There's got to be a day when you say, right, I'm actually out of control. I'm going to trust all them years that I put in. And that's where the true element of, I'm just now seeing you as a grown-up, or you're transitioning into an adult now. You're having my trust. And eventually I want you to surpass me. Well, in order for that to happen, you have to rely on what you've done and hope that they will build upon that. So yeah, I do think parents should and have to have a level of guidance and advice in their child's life. And just one last little thing before I finish with a little section. There was another friend who I realized was not a friend when I was growing up in school and such. And whenever I went round that particular person's house, whenever their parents, every time they came out to have dinner, it's, okay, you got to go home now. I've just been around here for 35 minutes. Oh, you've got to go home. I've got to go home. No problem. I would go home. Yeah, when that person came around my house and food was given, they ate too. Every time. They ate round mine, but then when I was round theirs, I had to go home. My mumsy clocked on to that. And it got to the point where now we're getting something to eat. Oh, you've got to go home because my mum's raw like that. My mom's raw like that. Yeah. Yeah. My mom's raw. She told him he's got to go home now because she saw her son being treated a certain way. And because I wasn't clocking onto it, don't you see you're being treated unfairly here? Don't you see his parents see you as less than, and I'm treating him more than? Nah, you've got to go home now because we're having food. And eventually, as T said, later down the line, it came to fruition why I shouldn't be around that person. Because that person was unloyal and that person was not genuine. So sometimes, man, children, you got to swallow that pill, man. Parents have lived longer than you, and they just might know something you don't know.
100%. Sorry, T. Before you move on, T, because I think just real life examples are just coming to my head, and just touching on what Kay said with regards to, there's going to become a time where the parents have to just trust in their own process, and they not only trust in their own process, but they have to have an element of trust in the friends that we keep. And if Kay and Jay remember, there was a sorry, but there was a time when Jay was grounded, yeah. But he was grounded on a night where we were actually performing on stage, like within the town. We were performing, but I don't know what he done, Jay, but he was grounded, and we were like, well, we need, this is our main guy. We can't do it without him, basically. And it was actually Kay who I remember we were probably 14, 15 at the time.
Yeah, about 14.
But we were able to, Kay was able to actually have a conversation with Jay's mum. Remember, she's probably on a warpath because it's done something wrong. But because of that trust, because of those friendships, because of that turning point, that transition, that phase where things are changing around, Kay was able to have a conversation with Jay's mum, and I can't remember. I don't know what the full content was. Maybe Kay, you can elaborate.
I still don't even know
more.
what you said to make that happen.
But it got to a point where the decision was overturned. And remember, these are kids talking to adults. But whatever trust or whatever faith or whatever was said was enough for her to go, you know what? All right, cool. He can go out. So I just wanted to add that in because these moments actually carry on to adult life, if that makes sense. Having to have a conversation at such a young, tender age still, and then to still have conversations 10, 15, 20 years on is testament to kind of the relationships that you can build with your friends, family, and parents if you put the work in.
Yeah, levels, man. Yeah, I guess where I was coming from in terms of parents actually dictating our kids' friendships was the outlook on friendship changes over the years, right? And we have to be responsible enough, not dictating by word, but maybe dictating by show of example. Because the friends you have around you, your kids are watching, right? My little one knows she's got loads of uncles. There's no, oh, that's daddy's friend. That's uncles. Touching on what Kay said about friends is not enough. It's not. Because when you've got a real brotherhood, it's family. Guess what? That's your uncles there. That's your aunties there. Yeah? And they're watching, as kids, they're watching how true friendship is formed. It's not just, oh, dad is moving reckless with his friends. It's actually, no, she knows every Thursday daddy meets with my uncles. If there's a barbecue at home, whatever it is, I've got uncles coming. I behave a certain way. And I watch them just conversating. It's important, man. It's important. So the next question then for myself would be, do different friendships play different roles in our life, boys?
100%, man. Different friendship do play different roles, and sometimes the role that friend, or later to be found out so-called friend, their purpose in your life is to teach you something, man. Sometimes that friendship that turns out to be a so-called friendship teaches you a hard lesson. And that might be their role. That person came into your life to cause you issues under the guise of a friend, just to teach you not to let someone like that in to your life again in future, or in future, there's a red flag. Just be mindful. So I think that there are roles that and different friendships that you make, some weaker, some stronger, some short-term, some long-term, serve a purpose. Now, what is that purpose? Well, if we go on to in-depth, deep, complex, long-term friendships that turn into, as you said, T, earlier, family, that purpose there is to extend your family. It's a family extension, isn't it? It's that simple. Listen, when my grandmother passed away, bless her soul, my boys, without me even knowing, sent flowers to my mum. And I only knew when my mum sent me the picture of the flowers once it was on the table. And I was like, what? Now I'm contacting my boys saying, boys, you done it. That's the level of, that's not friendship no more, brother. If they thought about my mum, her mum passing, yeah, didn't confide with me, but still in their hearts, we're going to do something for her without Kay knowing. That's a different, you can't say that's a friend, man. You can't say that. That's disrespect to call them a friend now. You're family, man. You understand what I'm saying? And the same with what's called T, our relationship, man, from where we met. There's a reason why we're here now, brother. We saw something in each other during that time. We had enough people around us. Enough people. People come in and out, people there for entertainment. But when it came down to deep, serious things, we knew who to talk to. And we're here now. So it's just about learning, man. It's about learning and understanding the value of people that you have. And I tell you what, speaking from life experiences I am getting, people will see people who are jealous and see that you've got a strong group. Some people can try and want to squeeze in and create that gap. Be wary of them people, yeah? That simple. Someone tried in our school days, Jay, tried to squeeze a gap between me and you.
Yeah.
To the point that me and you nearly swinging, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah? Because of lies and one step away from, because of lies and deception. Split the group. Why? Because it makes you weaker. But it's a strategy. It's a strategy that people use to break up strong groups, strong nationhoods, strong connections. Why? Because when you are in an individual, you are weaker. When you're a strong group, you're harder to combat. You're harder to cause dysfunction because you're all talking to each other. And if you're not talking, as M said earlier, you can just read each other just by looking. They don't have that, and they see it. I'm going to put a wedge in that. So you have to just be mindful, man, of people who come into your life or people who are currently there. And just, again, I can just only say this. Test them, man. Test them.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all that's real talk. And yeah, it's a reason. There's always a reason. And like Kay alluded to, there's positive reasons, there's negative reasons. There's reasons for learning, for motivation, for achieving a similar goal, for bonding. Do you know what I'm saying? Or in the negative ways to show you what is not a friend. And I think that's quite important because everyone, like you said, I swear earlier you said to you know, everyone says, yeah, I'm your friend, but their actions don't match that word. And it's only through these relationships that you go through, you can decipher, you can pick out the red flags, pick out the green flags, and realize who's truly your friend and who truly isn't, who's really got your back, who doesn't, who has love for you and who doesn't have love for you. Because at the end of the day, friendship is about love. And so, yeah, there's not much more I could say more than what Kay said. It's just that this relationship is definitely important to know in both the negative and the positive side. So yeah.
I think echo what both of you guys have said so far. But in terms of roles, definitely, I've definitely different roles in terms of different friendships that you have. You could, I know it sounds bad, but if we're all honest, you could break it down between just using friends. So obviously that word, there's a bone of contention for the actual use of the words friends, but in its purest form, you have friends that are family, you have friends that are workmates, you have friends that are acquaintances, you have, I guess that's it really. And then maybe there's people that you might know of them, but you don't know them fully. And I think
You got friends of a friend?
friends of a friend. Yep. And the further down you go, the murkier the waters are, and the kind of grey the roles become. But I don't think it's a bad thing. But it's about kind of knowing who's who and knowing what's what for you. And that might sound selfish, but at the end of the day, only you live your own life. So you have to kind of know, just for your own sanity, you have to know, okay, I only chat to that person like a few times a month or once every month, or I don't know, we might go for a coffee or have like a little chat, whatever, workmate. It could be something like that. Or it can be the same frequency of conversation with someone, but that's still my family. Like it doesn't matter how long we've been apart or how long we speak. It's just like yesterday when we reconnect. So it's about kind of getting to an age where you go, okay, I know what's what now. And I think that starts from school. Like school is a minefield in itself. That's a whole nother podcast. But it starts from those decision makings and those observations. You have to, what I would say to any person who's in that environment now, any younger person, but anyone, even if you're not young, like still, there's always a chance to observe, okay, what role are these people playing in my life? Is it always take from their part, or give? Is it a mixture of both? Do they use me to enable their behaviors? Do they come to me only when things are good for them, but when things are not so good, or whatever? Like there's so many dynamics. So it's just about being observant and from a young age developing I think Kay said it, like just doing those tests, doing those checks, to understand what role these people play in your life. But yeah, you're going to come across so many people in your life. It's impossible for everyone to have the same role. But as long as you're conscious of that, then that should protect you in different circumstances. What do you think, T?
Yeah, levels, man. I think it's important. Roles are important. After a few trial and errors, what I came to realize was I always use this analogy. You've got to put people in their boxes, right? What do I mean by that? Amongst ourselves right now, boys, we've got our strengths and our weaknesses, right? You've got to know whose strengths and whose weaknesses, because their strengths and weaknesses can play a different role in what you need. If I'm thinking of a business plan right now, right, I have to know if I go to K, he's going to critique every single aspect of that business plan I've got in my mind, right? And I've got to know if I am in a situation, or maybe my relationship is not going well as it should be, who can I go to amongst my friends, right? Not saying they're not all important, they're just as important. But everyone, depending on their strengths, you can get the best solution to your issue or to your problem, right? And you got to be able to decipher that. Just like you got to know, okay, he's an acquaintance. He can never be more than that, right? Based on how they're moving. Nothing wrong with him. He's a good person. But I just don't see us being friends that turn into family because we're too different. So I'll put you in your box. There's your box there. I see you. How you doing, man? All good. Good to see you. Yeah, yeah. Happy days. We'll go for a coffee once in a while. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some people in your life who are roots. Yeah, they're roots. They're there for the long haul. Some people who are branches that will snap when things get real. When that wind has got a bit cranked up, they'll snap off. And there's some people that are leaves. Every winter, there you go.
That's an analogy, boy.
So you got to know who's who. Because if you waste your time on branches, you're in trouble. You waste your time on leaves, you are in trouble. But your roots, you know they're not going nowhere. You know they're the source of your water. Yeah? So I can sit back and start having business plans now. With my boys here, we talk about building a table. So with my boys now, I know I can start a business. I know we can build this table. If you listen back to season 1, we shared our experiences, which were similar. Season 2, we told you who we were. And season 3, we are talking about building a table, starting businesses, a new website. These are the things you can only do with your roots and your tree trunks. Anything less than that is crumbling. All right. And it's fine. Sometimes some tree trunks may fall off. It's not a bad thing. As long as the friendship is still there, as long as you know, okay, this is our friendship. Unfortunately, it's run its course or it's taken a different direction. People you got to know. Because a lot of people, research shows, especially around teenagers, most of them are in jail because of their friends. Not because they're bad people, but because of the influence they had. Parents, you got to know. You got to set an example for your kids. You got to put up a new path for them to follow. If you're smoking around them, guess what? They're going to smoke too. Whatever you do, you got to be conscious. And because our parents were conscious, they were caught checking every friendship we had. This is why we're here. sitting around talking about this. That's how important it is. So with that being said, last season there were 5 of us on this table.
Mhm.
If you wasn't listeners, some would pick up, oh, there's now 4 of them. What's happened? What's happened? Nothing's happened. Our life takes turns and we have other pressing things happen. Some of us are starting a family. That means there's more attention needed elsewhere. So they may step off and say, listen, I need to concentrate on this for a minute. Yeah, I'll be back. And we've got to be friends strong enough to say, yeah, man, go do what you got to do. Go handle your business. But we keep building. We keep building for you, brother. But when you're going to come back, guess what? We're here. Like M said, we don't have to communicate anymore. Just look and we both laugh because we know what we're saying without saying it. Right? Everyone comes in, good morning, good evening, boys, whatever time we've got a meeting. I instantly know something is up because I know these brothers here. They're my brothers. I know them just by the voice, that first, yeah, how you doing? I'm like, yep, here we go. That's fine. We'll watch and see how he is, and then we'll ask. We might not have to discuss everything. Sometimes just being here is important. So yeah, man, levels, boys, levels.
And
Anything
yeah,
else from anyone, boys?
yeah, T man. You when you said that the boxes part, man, that resonates with me as well because you know, what I mean, you man know that I like to do a little bit of research here and there. In what you said, what resonated to me was the term social capital.
Mm.
Just want to put a little reference out there for the people and just for ourselves too. Just reading through the National Library of Medicine, it explains a term, social capital, and what that is. Just to briefly read that, it says the ability of actors to secure benefits by virtue of their membership in social networks or other social structures. So you see how the word capital is in play here. But what is the currency? Virtue. You understand what I'm saying? And you putting people, you knowing your circle, you being able to put people in boxes, as you say, that's you attributing a certain level of social capital to this person, certain level of social capital to that person, and you know where that asset is. It all works as a network, as one, but there's a particular asset that you know that person is strong at that, but that person has less of this, or that's their weakness. And then you go to a next one. That person is strong at this, but that's their weakness. That's levels of social capital that you are judging or you are attributing to each friendship within that social network. So I just want to put that out there, that that's an actual term that's been studied for social networks, or aptly named social capital.
Yeah, man. This is, this discussion has had me thinking, about those positive and negative interactions, because some of them I wouldn't want to call friendships. Maybe at the time, in the midst of it, I might have seen it that way. But there's friendships that you can meet down at the pub on the weekend, and then there's friendships you can invite to the family barbecue. And it's up to you to know how to differentiate between those two people. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think everything we've discussed, we kind of spoke on, the family influence, how we've navigated the social realm in choosing our friends, making sure we learn from those bad experiences, because we've all had them. If you say you haven't had a bad experience, then something must be wrong. You're probably the bad friend. So yeah.
Mm.
And for me, one more thing: be wary of people that are friends with everyone.
Boy, say that again. Say that again.
Yeah, you just have to be wary of people that are friends and overly friendly with everyone, because there's no substance. I've found in my life experience, those people have lack a certain amount of substance. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Okay, just one more point from myself as well, as to the importance of friendship. And I need to hit this home to the listeners and to ourselves as well. Like, understand the level of importance that real, quality, genuine friendships have on your life. And I mean that in its actual sense. Once again, reading through some research from the American Psychological Association, particularly the document, The Science of Why Friendships Keep Us Healthy. Over 38 different studies was used to develop this document. I'll briefly go into it. One of the conclusions is that low social connection, isolation, poor quality relationships, loneliness increase the likelihood of premature death. Hear that?
Wow.
Because no one's poisoning you. It's not talking about your diet. It's not talking about injury or harm or viruses. It's mental health. Not having good quality relationships, being isolated, not having a connection, and being lonely increases your likelihood of premature death. It's literally tied to your life, man. It's vital. You want to go to Boots and Superdrug or whatever pharmacy and grab your vitamins? Guess what? Grab a friendship, a real one. According to the study, being of poor quality relationships is more harmful than smoking 20 cigarettes per day. I didn't say that.
Wow.
The study said that. So if you look after your body so much that you don't want to touch a cigarette because it's harmful to your lungs, but you don't have a real genuine friendship, a real genuine relationship, you might as well pick up a cigarette. I'm not telling you to pick up a cigarette. Don't pick up one. But my point is this. According to the study, which over 38 different studies collated their data, it's less harmful to smoke 20 cigarettes than it is to have a poor quality or no social relationships. So yeah, man, it's vital, man. We're not just talking, man. We're not just talking this. It's vital.
Yeah. The last thing I'd say on just this whole topic is that I understand, and I'm sure we understand, that it's not easy. An element of luck comes into kind of who the people that come your way. And I'm seeing it more once again, more and more as a parent. I'm seeing it like it's not easy for especially younger people to find decent people or decent friendships and stuff like that, because it's literally like to a certain extent it's a luck of the draw when it comes to schooling and kind of where you're positioned and who's around, who's in the area or your catchment area, etc. It's not always that easy, and sometimes there's young people out there now to this very day, this very minute, that are trying to either fit in or not be isolated, so they might naturally gravitate to just people and not necessarily do those core checks, because it's, especially young people, adolescents, like you don't want to be alone. There's all those dynamics that come into it. So please don't feel like we're looking at it with rose tinted glasses. Like, we understand like the pressures, especially when friendships form from such a young age and stuff like that, and how that can get you either on a positive path or negative path. We understand that, but what's important is to have that moral compass that a parent should give. I think Kay alluded to it at the start. Like, you just have to trust. Like, after a while, you just have to trust that even if a child or you go down a route or do something maybe not so positive. I always used to say, like, when we used to go out as kids, my mum was always talking to me in my head, and I'm sure you guys can say the same. Like, there was always that element, even if I had to make a choice between desirable or maybe an undesirable path, regardless of which one I chose, there's always in the back of my mind, my mum, what's my mum going to think? She's not going to really approve of this, even if I do go do this certain thing. And I think that's what's important, going back to the parenting side, like installing or installing a conscience that is just that kind of leads you in the right way more times than not. We'll ignore them sometimes, we'll ignore those voices, but I'm concerned that those voices are not even in a lot of people's heads. And that might sound kind of weird, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. That conscience is not. I don't
100%.
see it. I don't see it as much in people, and that's worrying. That really is.
True. I think in psychology, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that the super ego, that parental voice, or that reasoning voice? I think it was your id, your ego, and your super ego.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually remembered something.
Boy, you did learn something in school.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Levels. Like we say, if we wasn't listeners, when we come together, it's not just for the sake of it. We're not trying to get anything out of this, but to make sure that our people are one step away from desirable outcomes. Like Kay said, just having good friends can be good for your health.
Just thinking about that premature death situation. Do you like, if we really deep it, like, have you not heard of the saying, like, people die from a lonely heart?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know, if you've been married for like 40 years and then your 40 marriage partner dies and then they happen to die shortly after.
Yep.
I just thought about that. Boy, sorry, T, man, but yeah, I just wanted to hit home again how vital it is, man.
You're absolutely right. It happens a lot. Like M just touched on as well, which is quite important. How many of the parents are gut checking their kids' friends or even their parents? How many of them are even watching their kids, making sure they're on the right path? Because we've got so many distractions that we're just living. A child is making a fuss, oh, pass them a phone. Give them a phone and let them play. You don't even know what they're doing there. We've got to be conscious, man. We've got to be conscious because we are raising the parents of tomorrow. It's up to us to make sure that our kids don't end up in prison, in the grave. Like I said, most kids are in jail or 6 feet under because of friendships. Parents know their kids are good and they're shocked when something happens. Like, my child would never do that. Why? Because of friendships, because of influence. So yeah, man, the only thing I would say is ask yourself this question. Your circle, how many of them are friends? How many of them are acquaintances? So yeah, it's been an amazing one, boys. Again, thank you to the listeners for taking your time out and listening to us. Please check out our next episode, The Dark Side of Schooling, which will also be feeding in from this episode. And also check out our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and of course our brand new website, www.onesaf.co.uk. Peace.
Yeah.